Welcome to the first episode of the new She2.0 podcast. And this season, we're going to hear from women who are sharing their stories about courageous midlife pivots. These could be pivots from a career or a lifestyle or whatever big change women have made to make their lives better. I wanted to hear from them. So I put a call out and I have had overwhelming response from courageous women who are really excited to share their stories, the ups, the downs, the tips, everything they've learned. So I'm starting today with Elisa Kosonen, who started 14 Carats. And I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's a really fun name with a great story. I will let Elisa do that. But Elisa comes from a journalism background, a marketing background, and she started thinking about a pivot as early as 40. And she's here today to share that story, why she did it, what she learned, what were some of the hardships she endured, and was it all worth it? So tune in and have a listen to Elisa Kosonen of 14 Carats. Hi, Elisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jackie. How are you doing?
I'm great. This is the first podcast of the next season, and it's a different season this year. Elisa, thank you so much for responding to my shout out. I was looking for women like you who were brave enough to make a midlife pivot and brave enough to share that story. She 2.0 and a lot of the media out there, we focused a lot on menopause and perimenopause. Super important topic. But what about the women behind it? We are more than menopause. So I like to look on the bright side of all the changes that are happening. And one of the things I've really discovered through conversations through our community is women are finding this to be a really empowering time, but it gives them sort of the courage to make changes that make them happier or feel more confident. And I think having all that experience behind us really leads to this moment for women. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And before you go into your pivot, I want to know a little bit about who you were before midlife and what brought you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this series and feel very honored to be a part of it. So thank you. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and certified health coach, and I help women who are exhausted, burnt out, dealing with perimenopause symptoms. And that is a fairly new journey for me. So before midlife, I was a fashion editor at magazines.
Which magazines?
Well, I started out at Nouveau. That was my very first job in 2005. I think I started out there. I was very lucky to start out there as a fashion and beauty editor at Nouveau. And I was 23. I was like thrown into it from the get-go. I had these amazing mentors around me. At Fashion Weeks, I was driving through Stratford with Tiffany in my car for a photo shoot. I was traveling. It was the most incredible sort of, let's just throw you in the deep end of what this whole fashion journalism thing is, with everything for that very first year. And it was such an incredible experience. I was so lucky to have started out my career that way. Throughout that sort of period of my life, I really kind of wanted to learn and try new things. I was, early 20s and young. And so I moved to London. I went to the London College of Fashion. I had an experience in New York as well. And my final job in this, I guess I like to call it my first act. I'm in my third act right now. My first act, my last job was at Flair magazine in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we've crossed paths or something because I worked in magazine for a while too. So what an interesting background. Like you've seen it all. You've also seen, some of the behind the curtain stuff that a lot of people don't see when they see those beautiful editorial spreads of gorgeous women in bathing suits and fashion. And, you're like, I don't wake up looking like that, but you and I know the truth.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. The schlepping, the amount of people that are involved in that, the editing. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so you have this great career. You get to meet all these super cool people, go all these really cool places, and now you've pivoted. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my first pivot was my second act when I moved into marketing and PR. So that was sort of from journalism into that side. And I was still in fashion mostly. Throughout that time, I was climbing that ladder, getting the promotion or moving on to a larger role, managing teams, moving in that direction. I hit burnout about 3 times. My third round of burnout was during COVID. Just before that, I had made the decision to kind of move on from fashion. I had the most wonderful experience and I met the most incredible women and was so inspired by all these designers and all the creative people putting things out there to make us feel good. And I think ultimately I kind of just was like, I don't know, am I doing this until I'm 65? It just wasn't the right fit for me. It was just sort of like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. That was just before COVID hit that I decided to make that change. I had intended on spending a bit of time and kind of understanding like what I wanted to do next with my life and figure it all out. But it was a pretty scary time. I was one of those people drinking the wine, refreshing the news,
So you're also like making a pivot, which is probably a big departure from what you know works. And then you're doing it during a pandemic, which oddly enough, I do know quite a few people who chose that time. Like, why not? We're at home, we're spending hours where we can't even really be working as productively as we could have before. But we don't talk about how scary it is to make this big leap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And especially when you're ready to make the leap, but you don't know exactly what it is yet. Maybe you haven't I just hadn't hit the nail on the head at that stage. I just knew the only thing I knew, and this was before COVID, is just I wanted to be in sort of a health and wellness space where I was spending my time helping people feel better. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
During that time, of course, healthcare and our wellness overall, our mental health, I think was really kind of highlighted for a lot of people. And I think it opened up the opportunity for you to take a little space and maybe rethink things.
Yeah.
For the lucky ones. So that was, for me, my shift into health and wellness. But I did that in marketing first.
Okay.
So I moved into a company called Be Yoga and Half Moon. So I worked in marketing with them first. And that actually was my stepping stone. So I think this is the thing for me with making those pivots. I just didn't know yet, but I had a stepping stone. I was very lucky. I had a stepping stone where it was just like sort of my foot in that world.
Yeah.
And met so many amazing practitioners and learned about all the different modalities. I had started meditating, I guess, during my first round of burnout, like 2018, maybe even earlier. I guess it was 2016. But it was then where I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand like building awareness, sitting still, kind of just connecting with your sort of emotional resilience first. And so when I met all these different practitioners, like yoga was such a big thing for us and meditation. And it just kind of opened my eyes into what I potentially could contribute to the world of this sort of world for people in their like journey for well-being and feeling great. And it just kept coming back to food. I think that's because of my own journey, ultimately. I guess I started learning about gut health around 2011. My mom passed away when I was 27 in 2009, and I have a lot of cancer in my family. So that sort of was my very first kind of, is there something I can do about my own immune health? What can I do to support myself in this? I used to get sick a lot when I was a kid too. So that was my very first like, okay, I'm going to start learning a bit more about this. So when I was in this world, it just kept coming back to that. So I made the decision to go back to school. And that was just a couple months before my 40th birthday. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it yet. I knew I wanted to have this schooling and this kind of credential and this expertise in nutrition. But it wasn't until like 3 months in. And again, I feel like these stepping stones we don't give enough credit for, like if you're on a path and you're making a change, it is a path. It's a journey still.
Yeah.
It's not always just, okay, I'm making this change and there I am.
I think like you can't just go from A to B overnight. And
Yeah.
I know, when you do finally hit the nail on the head, you want to just get there right away. You just want to get going. But to your point, you have to learn about it. Like you have to I think like taking a job in marketing and before we get on to school, even volunteer work for me has always been like, if I want to learn about something and see if I'm good at it or I like it, I'll volunteer. And then you get connections there, but you also learn or look these opportunities and think, well, I just need to get from here to here as quickly as possible. But I like what you're saying, that it's a journey and it requires several steps. And, the smaller the step, the smaller the risk, I think, right? Everything and go to the next thing and it doesn't work. You've given up everything. But when you do it step by step, I think it's more palatable for, emotionally for us to be able to do it and learn and absorb and move on and progress.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And those big risks are a little different in this time of our life, right? We have responsibilities. We can't just move back in with our parents. Something doesn't work out. So it's kind of being able to take those steps wisely just for where you are in your life. But I also like what you said. It's sort of like you're kind of opening yourself up and learning more. You learn more about what you're interested in, but you also learn more about yourself along the way. And that's really, I think, is, from my experience at least, what helped me really understand what that pivot was going to be for my third act in life.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared were you to make the pivot?
Oh gosh, I probably should have been more scared. Well, my mom was a career counselor growing up.
Oh.
So I was not afraid to explore in terms of my career at all. I wasn't afraid to make changes. I moved from Vancouver to London and then Vancouver to Toronto. So I had kind of done these big things in my 20s. So there were things just inherently that I feel like I was just courageous enough to try. It's like, oh, I'll just try it. I'll figure it out. And just kind of determined to figure it out. But I think on a scale of 1 to 10, when I was making the actual leap of like, okay, I'm going to leave my full-time job to focus on school, that was probably like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, we think first and foremost financially.
Yeah.
And then, is this going to work? Can I sustain myself? I mean, you can always, wagers on the side or do freelance. But at some point, if you really want your business to scale up, you've got to put all those hours in. And then you're talking about more burnout.
Yes, absolutely. And that is definitely something that happened to me last year too.
What happened?
So I guess because I had been through it 3 times, I recognized the signs. But
the top 3 signs are
kind of, well, for me, and I think it's a personal experience for everybody, but my first signs were I couldn't stop working. Felt very anxious about not doing all of the things and doing all of the hours all the time.
Right.
It made me more sort of concerned and worried if I didn't work all the time. I started kind of withdrawing from plans. That's the second thing for me. When I went through my burnout, I just didn't I said no to everything. I didn't see friends. It was very much like I can only show up for work, and that's because I have to.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do. Everything else suffers. And so that started happening. And it was my sleep. My sleep was disrupted. I started waking up. In my early 40s, I had also skipped a period during that time. So I was like, okay, things are happening. So let me just get to the bottom of it and understand what things are happening. And I did some functional tests in the fall of last year around my cortisol. So it's a saliva test that you do for cortisol, and discovered that it was just flatlined in the morning when it's supposed to be highest. So for me, it was like I hadn't crossed the threshold, I think, of burnout. It was just more because I had been through it. I was able to say, I'm seeing some not so great things. What can I do? to quickly adjust and make sure I don't go down this path again.
So were you able to course correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Going through it a few times, you kind of knew what you had to do and followed this
Yes.
plan, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I worked with a naturopathic doctor for that functional test and focused on adjusting my habits, my boundaries, taking targeted supplementation, adjusting my food a little bit again, and got that shine back pretty quickly, a couple months later.
Now, did this at all tie into what we're going to call the pivot, 14 carats?
This was right after the pivot. You
I
told
heard about that. Like, that would be, and then of course you burnt out after, but you have the tools now. Like you have the self-awareness and you have the tools. Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about that. And
Well, ultimately, I think that's sort of my mission is to help women with these tools so they can get there faster as well.
yeah.
So my pivot essentially, and this was the summer of last year, I started my own practice called 14 Carats.
14 carats. I love that name.
Oh, thank you so much. I know I get this question a lot. They're like, do I have to eat a lot of carrots?
I'm happy to, but
Yeah, they're great. Basically, it's kind of based on sort of my fashion background as well. So it's a play on words around 14 karat gold. And my mission around it is to essentially help people get their energy back, their spark for life back, the energy and the rest and the regulation to really do the things that light them up, that they're passionate about, work that they're really passionate about, doing good in the world, having a really full life with their family, whatever it may be. I call it just essentially finding your shine. And so 14 carats is the idea that it's your everyday shine. So 14 carats is sort of that everyday piece that you might wear that's like your signature piece that goes with everything. It's a more approachable sort of idea around nutrition and wellness as well. So it's the everyday foundational habits that help you feel like your best every single day.
Okay. I love that. Like, what a great backstory for the name. So I know, as someone who runs my own little thing, that when we listen to your story and think, great, you've got this practice, you're helping women, you went back to school, you're taking everything you know from marketing and like your whole, your whole history today to help you get here. But what we don't talk about is you don't just start up a thing. There's the administration, there's the business setup, there is financials, which are scary and confusing, and I hate them. Marketing, there's social, there's business development. And then on top of it, doing what you do, you have to stay on top of current practices, you have to stay on top of new guidelines, regulatory, like it's not just saying I'm going to help women. You literally are running, from A to Z a business all on your own.
Yes, all on my own.
And that's a lot.
It's going really well. It's the most I could not be happier. It is where I'm supposed to be in my life. It is what I'm supposed to be doing. I have worked with the most amazing women. I've also worked with men. I have learned so much from my clients. I also work part-time in a clinic. So I've essentially just learned so much about how people are approaching this type of support when they're ready to get that kind of support. You do case studies, of course, you do that practical experience too. But when you're working with people who are dealing with completely different types of lives and helping them navigate and figure out what that step is for them, it's a real journey. And it's a real honor to be part of that journey with people. I've been able to help people really, first and foremost, I'm helping them figure out the fatigue piece. But often that's not the first thing that people like, the reason why people are seeking out this type of help, right? Like you're used to being tired at this age.
I am very used to being tired. In the afternoon, I hit this wall around 2 o'clock and I am just done. There's nothing left. But I also get up at 6 and go, go, go. Like, I love
Mhm.
the morning. I never thought I'd
Mm. Oh my
listen, but
gosh. Yeah.
if someone were to say to me, because I'm postmenopausal, what do you notice with it? I would say stuff like waking up in the middle of the night, the anxiety. But I always attribute the lack of sleep to something I've done. Oh, well, I had a glass of wine before bed, or I waking up in the middle of the night, or I'm stressed, or I didn't exercise enough. But the reality is, this is a huge flag of where we are in the hormone journey. And
Yeah.
understanding those signs are really important. What you're doing is critical because women need to understand perimenopause way more than they do right now, because that to me is the runway to menopause, your chance to course correct and get everything buttoned down so you have a smoother
Totally.
transition. Yeah, but they're only going to know that by speaking to people like you, or really being a little more mindful about and listening to their bodies. And you, through meditation and just burnout and stopping and listening, it's not just your educational background and your professional background that have led you to this perfect storm. It's like your own journey, your own experience, which would explain why you feel like this is where you're meant to be.
Yeah. When you're able to find a pivot that speaks to who you are, what you've been through, it's a little bit almost like a return home to yourself in a way. There's a lot that I think is, and that is kind of the experience of midlife in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is kind of returning home, like unlearning all these things that you learned along the way, of how you're supposed to be or
Yeah.
who you're supposed to be. And it's that unraveling and opening up of like, oh my gosh, this is actually something that, like for me, I started university in kinesiology. That was my major,
Oh, wow.
but
Okay.
I shifted into English and journalism. So it's sort of like there are these little nuggets and these little moments from way back in your life that you can draw on that really kind of spark those types of inspiration for you. If you're looking for that pivot, it's inside you. It's
Yeah.
there.
Yep. That's a really great piece of advice. I would say too, we keep kind of going down this path as women. I can't speak to men, where, as we get older, we start to prepare ourselves for ageism, sandwich generation, older kids, empty nesting. Even if we
Mhm.
don't have kids, it's relationships, it's everything, right? We're starting to think about retirement. And what we're not thinking about really is, are we enjoying our journey to that destination? Because I bet you so many people would say, no, no, I want to, like, when I hear people talk passionately about retirement, I think, I don't want to retire. Like, I love what I do. I'm going to do it forever. But I get it. I get it, especially when you're a high income earner. I want to not look forward to retirement. I want to see retiring from a job is just sort of like leaving a job. I want there to always be a next thing for me. And I think a lot of us don't look at it that way. We're so conditioned to just, burn ourselves out, do the job, come home, do the family life thing, that by the time we hit midlife, we are tired. It's sort of a combination of what you're helping women with, and then shifting that attitude that we don't have to drive ourselves into the ground to be important and to be successful. We have to do what we love, and we've earned that. And, it's a culmination of everything that we've wanted to do. We've learned the experiences we've had, the mistakes we've made that bring us to this point. Because I know making a pivot is really scary, especially depending on what you're pivoting to. But, I think it's important to look at what we have in our toolkit, because I don't think women pay enough attention to that.
It's so true. And those transferable skills,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
right? And I think for me, one of the biggest pieces that I'm, which is really part of my mission is if there is something inside of you that's looking for something new or something different or wants a change, that if you're able to first and foremost recognize that chronic fatigue is not, you don't have to settle for that.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe first talk to your doctor, get some testing, see what's going on. Is it low iron? Like there's a lot of things that can be going on in that first piece that can actually help you get to that second piece of like, okay, I have the energy and the space and the calmness in my life. I've kind of been able to build a better foundation where I can make these decisions now. I
Yeah.
feel like I have this space to like get creative. Like I think it's really about making sure that there's that foundation that you can build while you're in the mix of all the craziness of life. It's these small shifts that can really help you set a good foundation so you're well fed, you're regulated, you're feeling like the best that you can in what you have
Yeah.
going on so that you
Mhm.
can really make those decisions for yourself from a really good place as well.
What would you say, if you look back on the whole journey and what led you here, what would you say was the hardest part about this third act pivot you've made?
The hardest part is doing things like this, to be perfectly honest, like getting out in front
Yeah.
of a business. My whole career, I've been sort of like the right-hand man. I've been behind the scenes, supporting amazing founders of companies, but I've
Right.
never been that person. And so I really underestimated how that would ultimately mine all of your insecurities and all of the things that you maybe haven't dealt with
Mhm.
perfectly. And so that I think honestly, that's the biggest piece. I can get in my own way. I can get stuck in fear and perfectionism. And I think that's the most unexpected thing. So I think that's the hardest, but it's also something that you can get help with and you can work on and having awareness, building that awareness. Again, it kind of comes back to my meditation practice and things that I've learned with other coaches along the way. But yeah, that's the hardest.
Well,
It's,
getting a
I don't
coach
know.
is a good idea.
Yes.
Okay, that's a great piece of advice. It's interesting that you said that because I feel like when you are, and I worked in PR board and advertising, you're always behind something, right? Like a team or product, or when you're doing your own thing, it's all you. It is all you letting it all hang out. And it's hard. Like I remember starting podcasting. I really started it because I was like, good, I don't have to be on video. But
Yeah. And
then
now
the
here we are.
social media world said, "But you have to put it on YouTube." I'm like, "Oh, crap." And like I tell, so we're gonna record, you're gonna be on video. And they're
Like, can I just not do
yeah,
my makeup today?
exactly. And then all I'm wearing pajama bottoms. But I've had consultants come to me and say, like, well, she 2.0, but you need to do more videos of you talking. I'm like, "Ugh, no, 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 I don't want to do that." And I do voice. I mean, I don't even really listen to my own podcasts unless I'm editing because I don't love hearing myself talk all the time. And, I'm cringy about seeing myself on camera. I think these are really normal things. But when you start to build your own business, you are the thought leader, you are the spokesperson. And you're right. Probably something else we don't really think about. Oh, yeah, now I really have to put myself out there. Now I'm the
Yeah.
star of my own show, but it's great because once you get going, don't you find it really confidence building?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And ultimately, the results that, for me personally, the results that I'm getting with clients,
Great.
the transformation stories that I'm seeing.
Yeah. The
So
feedback.
imagine for yourself, right? It's sort of like the things that are happening from that work too are sort of
Yeah.
bolstering you. And when you
And
know
knowing
you,
it's all you.
yes, exactly. And so when you've done that and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, like, why am I so worried about getting on camera and all
Yeah.
these things, Because I mean, I don't know if that'll ever go away, right?
I think you're going to find it easier. And, like, I don't know. I think the more you practice something, well, this is a fact, it's a scientific fact. I'm not going to
Oh,
take credit for science here, but the more you practice something, the easier it does get. And then another benefit of, I would say, midlife is even if, you practice it and you're still flubbing on camera, who cares?
mm,
Because you don't care as much in midlife. And that is the biggest present I got as I hit my 50s is I
yeah.
stopped caring as much. And I'm like, oh, well, this is my backdrop. This is what I'm doing. It's more important that you hear the information. You don't have to like my hair. You do have
Yeah.
my glasses, but that's it. Like,
Your
and
glasses are fabulous.
thank you. They're my peepers. But like the more you put yourself out there, the more you stop caring about how you're presenting and what you're presenting. I think that's a game changer. It was for me.
Oh my
I
gosh,
think it will be for
absolutely.
you too. You're great on camera, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, people talk about that before I turned 40. People are like, get ready. It's the best. Like, just
Yeah.
don't care anymore. And I think that it's the first step into that. You definitely start to peel away those layers. So, yeah, I definitely felt that before I started to like, okay, now I have to get on social media, which isn't supernatural for me. I worked in social media for so long, but I always had a
But
team of these,
you're behind
so
the
yeah,
scenes too, right?
exactly.
Like it's so
Exactly.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
taking that role. Can you, if you had some advice to give to someone listening to this who's thinking, I am sort of coming up to those years where I have laid a huge foundation in my career and my personal life, and I would like to pivot and probably like you and I, like, what is that pivot and how scary is it going to be? And can I do it? And should I do it?
Mhm.
What would you say to them? Like, what is something encouraging and maybe something that's a great tip that you would get?
Mhm. I guess the first thing is change is possible, completely possible and within reach, whatever change that may be. It's very possible. And I think the sort of like spark of idea or pull or urge is just your first sign that something needs to change and that you're ready for something new. And so I think the first thing is to just really honor that. And the second thing, I guess, for me, in terms of like a tip around that is when you've done that and you're like, okay, there's something going on inside. A lot of times we can't identify it yet. So I would say really digging into what are my values, being able to identify those and what your values are for the rest of your life as well, right?
Mhm.
What are the things that you value most? How do you picture yourself in, say, 6 months down the road when you've made a change or the other side of that change? How are you showing up in the world? How would you describe that? By being able to visualize the other side and where you think you want to be, how you want to feel first and foremost, sometimes that can
Mhm.
help you start to build the bridge to that next place. Is
Yeah.
understanding what the change will be for you. Is it completely, shifting into a completely different career? Is it deciding to spend your time with a volunteer organization? Is it moving? Whatever that change may be or whatever that pivot may be, I
Mhm.
think being able to visualize how you feel after you've made the pivot can help you really identify what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one question I would normally ask, but you've really, it speaks for itself with what you're doing is how has your pivot made a critical change in other people's lives or in the world? But the fact that you are helping women understand their bodies, their minds, and how to feel better, I think that just speaks for itself. We know the change you're making in the world, and it's much needed. It's a huge gap that hasn't successfully been filled just yet. But all women deserve to feel this like this great, this energetic, this third act, invigoration. And you're helping them
Absolutely.
to do that through your education and support. And so all the hard work you did and all the fears you faced are paying off.
Yeah, thank you for that. I am on a mission to help as many women as possible in this. I think we all deserve it. We deserve to have the joy as well through this period, to be able to
Yes.
dance around your kitchen or whatever it is, just to do things that are
Yeah.
joyful in your daily life. So
Yeah.
I'm on a mission. So I think you're right. There is the gap, right? I think
Yep.
I feel very lucky to be able to be doing what I am doing right now and to help fill that.
That's amazing. Elisa, I want to thank you because it isn't always easy to come onto a podcast and just speak openly about the hardships we go through. And social media is always about sharing our best version of our best life. We're not talking about that today. But I think it's important for other women to hear, that pivots are not just pipe dreams. Like, there are steps to take. And you've given a lot of great information talking about, doing it in steps versus a huge leap, getting a coach, listening to yourself, looking at the things that have piqued your interest in the past, like taking those learnings forward and putting them in your toolkit so that you are prepared for this. So thank you so much because I got a lot of inspiration out of that, and I hope anyone listening will too.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. I'm glad to be able to share my story and excited to also be able to help people in this journey too.